can we be real for a second? Praying for people, reading our Bibles, praying to God, giving our money out to the poor, doing all these things that Jesus did, laying our hands on the sick to see them recover, casting out demons, all these crazy works, they're not always fun. They're not always something that we want to do. And oftentimes, I don't know about you, but I just feel like there's a million other things I'd rather do. Let's just be honest for a second. Oftentimes when we get into the motions of these things in the beginning, it's really exciting and we see miracles maybe, or we see people, we're giving them happiness. But after doing this for months and months and months upon years, it starts becoming a bit more laborious. It starts becoming something not necessarily as fun, yet something that we feel we need to do. And with that feeling that, you know what, this isn't as fun anymore, often comes the idea or a feeling of guilt or shame that, you know, I'm supposed to find this fun. I'm supposed to find this super exciting, but at this moment I don't. Does that mean that my heart is growing further away from God? Does that mean I am now less after His heart of things? You see, brothers and sisters, I want to submit to you that if everything that God called us to do was always fun, and we only did it because it was always fun, God would be our hobby instead of our lifestyle. You see, a hobby is something we do for fun. It is something we do in our spare time when we don't have work to do or anything like that. We do something to take our mind off of things. That's what we call a hobby. And see, but it's something that you have to do because you know you need to do this, whether it's to put food on the table for your family or whether it is because God told you to. It's not always a hobby. It's not always fun. It's not always something you just do in your spare time on the side. But see, it's not wrong. It's not sinful. We're not supposed to feel shame if it doesn't feel as fun anymore after the newness of it has worn down. Because like I said, if the only reason you're doing it is because it's fun, then God is simply your hobby. So what if you going out and doing the things that God has called you to do, even though everything in your being, even though your flesh cries out and says, I don't want to do this, I don't feel like doing this. I want to submit to you that demonstrates that God is no longer just a hobby, but God has become a lifestyle. God has become so part of you and who you are. The walk of Jesus, of Yeshua, is you're so running after it with such a heart that you can't afford to simply do it just because you want to anymore. Now you're doing it because you need to. Now you do it because you understand that your master has given you a commandment and it is your duty and your responsibility and your honor to do it, no matter what you feel, no matter whether you want to do it or not. How? Because you realize that what you feel is not what is most important anymore. Rather, it is pleasing your King. You see, if we do things just because it's fun, or just because it is new, or just because it's something to take our mind off of work, and that's the only reason, that's the circumstance we do things for God, then God is only our hobby instead of our master, and He is only a genie to us instead of our Lord. You see, and what I mean by a genie is this thing that you go to God just because you want something from Him, just because you've got a wish, just because you want a blessing, just because of this, just because of that. And God is now your idol, if you will. He is something that He is not really. You have made Him something that He is really not. Because God is not just there for you. He is there to be honored and served and glorified. And so if you are only there by His feet when you feel like it, when you feel like it's time for you to get something, or when you feel like it's fun, then He is both only your hobby and your genie that you ask to come and bless you when you feel like it. But God calls something different from those who truly follow Him. He calls us to follow Him regardless of what we feel, and actually He even calls us more to follow Him when we don't feel like it. All the examples of scriptures that we have about the people who want to follow Jesus, they were continuously being told by Him, are you sure you want to follow me? Because there is something you need to know first. I want you to sell everything you have. You want to bury your father? Forget about that. Come and follow me. He said all these things. It kind of made it hard. It kind of made it not as fun to follow him. Because see, he was like a filter. Because those who just wanted to follow God or play religion or play a religious appearance, that was incompatible with the true walk of Yeshua. Because you can be religious because it's your hobby. Many people are like that. They go to church on a Sunday every week, and that's their religion. That is their relationship with God, as they're defined by their relationship with God by their attendance to church. And that is no more, I'm sorry, brothers and sisters, but that's no more than a hobby. That's no more than coming to church when you feel down. That's no more than coming to God when you feel that you need him. Instead of being so dependent on him every single day that you understand you need him, but you're not just there because you need him, you're there to glorify him. You're there to build his kingdom. See, that's what it is about to follow and serve God. It's not just about what you can get out of this deal. It's primarily about what you can give as a servant to your master. It's interesting because Yeshua, Jesus, actually spoke about this labor, like what I'm talking about in this video. And he contributed to working in a field and a harvest. And he talked about how this harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Pray that the Lord sends workers to labor in this harvest. You know what labor means? Labor is something that you do because you have to. No one goes and works and toils hard in a field if they don't really need to. They don't do it for just the fun of it. They do it because it's necessary to produce a harvest. It is necessary to produce good fruit. No one goes and works for every day, 9 to 5, for a whole year, just because it's fun. They do it because they need to put food on the table, or they have some kind of a goal behind it. And in the same way, God he attributes the work of the kingdom in the same manner. He's saying, this is not just something you do for fun. This is not just a hobby. This is not just supposed to be that. This is supposed to be your life. This is supposed to be what you live and breathe to do every single day. And it is to labor for my kingdom, to work in the harvest field. And I want to submit to you that this is why we so often see, listen, brothers and sisters, this is something I so often see, is that when someone gets on fire for God, or whether they've seen a miracle, they've seen God do something, maybe even through them having someone get healed, or walking in some kind of spiritual gift, or seeing a demon being cast out, or whatever it is. We so often see people, after the newness of it wears off, after they've been doing it for a few months, now they're over it, they've seen it a million times, and now suddenly they're not as passionate anymore. Now suddenly the fire kind of dies down because they were only in it in the beginning for the excitement there, for the glory there, for the hobby nature thereof, instead of continuing thereon, because the only reason they were doing the first place, the main reason, was to glorify God's kingdom. So brother, sister, listen to me. If you have been feeling that you are losing your fire, if you've been feeling like maybe you saw some miracles, maybe you saw some things God did in your life, but now you're feeling like it's fading away, there's 2 things I need you to know. Number 1, you don't need to feel ashamed that you have a feeling, because we don't walk by feeling. It is alright to understand that I don't feel like working in a field today. I don't feel like going to work today. We all have those days, and there's nothing wrong with that in its essence. But the second thing you need to know is what is important is what you do with that feeling. Will you allow the feeling of I don't feel like it today, I'm not in the mood today, to stop you from doing what God has called you to do? Or will you go and do it regardless, because you don't walk by your feelings, and you're not dictated by your feelings, and you're not doing it for your feelings? If you live for God just because of your feelings and just because it's fun, your fire will go out quicker than next month. But if you go and you are walking after God, and running after Him because you love Him, because you want to build His kingdom, because His kingdom is priority in your life, then you will not let your feelings get in the way of that. Just like if you understand, I have work to do today. I need to go to my job because I need to pay my rent. I need to feed my family. I need to put food on the table. No matter how I feel today, I'm going to go. If I'm physically able to go to work, I may not feel like in the mood to do it, but I'm going to go because there is priorities behind it. I'm not going to go because I feel I'm in the mood to go, but I have to go. That's the same attitude we need to have for the kingdom of God. For some reason in our westernized modern Christianity, we have made God to be like a hobby. We have made him to be this idea of, I just serve him when I feel like it, because that's all he needs from me. No, he needs your whole life, 24/7. He needs it all. You need to die to yourself, give your life to him to live for him. That's what he requires. You see, the price is high. It costs your life. Salvation is free, but you need to give your life to your master, because your master is the one who you are now a servant to. You will now do what he said. You will now follow him, and you will not say, I don't feel like it today, God. We read how Paul the apostle said, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. He who plants and he who waters are one, and each one will receive his wages according to his labor. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building. If you worked on a farm as a laborer in the field, and your master told you to go work today because the harvest is ready, it's time to harvest, and you go and you say, I'm too lazy today, or I don't feel like it today, or maybe tomorrow. On that day, when your master comes back at the end of it, he's going to look at what did you do today, and he's going to see you did nothing because you were lazy or because you didn't feel like it, and you will not receive the wages for your labors, while your brothers who did decide to work, regardless of how they felt, will receive their wages. With God it is no different. He says that those who work and labor in his fields will receive their wages according to their work. That means that if you did not work, you will receive no wages. If you did work, you will receive wages in accordance thereof. I hope this encourages you to pick up your cross and follow him, and not let the enemy persuade you that if you don't feel like it, you can step down or you should step down. If you don't feel like it, I want to submit to you that sometimes the enemy makes us feel like not in the mood or lazy, or our flesh starts taking over us, and that's when God really needs us to move, because that's when something happens in the spiritual realm that needs our intervention. So when you feel like you don't feel in the mood to do it, that's the day you need to. Because then in this moment, right before I made this video, I didn't feel like it, brothers and sisters. I didn't feel in the mood to come and stand here. But if we are obedient, we will see good fruit, and we will be rewarded according to our labors by our Master. May God bless you and keep you. Shalom and blessings. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if this message has blessed you, and like this video and share it with others.